at the appropriate level. So,
Mr. Bizens, you mentioned an interesting issue to volunteering, which are obstacles. What were some of those obstacles, and what advice would you give our audience who are experiencing some of those obstacles to overcome those? Just give some examples of the obstacles first.
okay. Once I was in a large day hab where the volunteer opportunities were for group volunteering, as you know, BJ. So one day I went to my program coordinator and I said to her that I wanted to volunteer at this school called, well, I'll say CHC right now. But she knew what I was talking about. And she said, "Oh, Eric, I worked there one summer. It would not be a safe thing for you. And I don't think that we could work around the safety issues for you right now. These children have severe cerebral palsy. There's a lot of adaptive equipment on the floors. There's sometimes the kids themselves are on the floor. And you know what? A lot of it was true, but once I connected with Donna, who also has a visually impaired son, who was with me back in my preschool days at the school, it was like she came up with a working system for me. Another problem sometimes is supports for people with disabilities. Now, when I go to CHC, my supports are the staff who know me. My old preschool teachers are still there. The one who's the head director now, Jan, her husband Mark, the assistant director Nancy.
So you basically made community connections.
Yeah. And they said, what they basically said was, look, we worked with Eric before. We miss Eric. We want him back. Let's find something he can do for us.
So in your view, it's important to start off making those community connections.
Absolutely. And if somebody tells you this and that, it may be true, it may not be true. But check it out first, and eventually, if there's somebody who knows you, they can probably figure out a way to make it work.
Eric, do you have any questions you might like to ask either of our guests?
Well, as far as the negatives go, I know of another negative. Could transportation be a negative?
Sometimes it can be. I've had a few bad experiences with transportation, yes.
Do you care to elaborate on that?
Oh, definitely. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with paratransit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is, one being is, when you use paratransit, you basically have to be out there and you have to be ready to go. And sometimes, if you need something, you have to go without.
But
just to make that bus sometimes.
But that's also your responsibility as a volunteer or an employed person to remember those rules that paratransit has set in place to help you.
Right. Now sometimes you can, in a volunteer position, you can work it out where you're working with another volunteer. Maybe they can provide transportation for you. Not all the time. Sometimes you can arrange with a job coach if you have an internship type volunteer position.
Eric, if you don't mind, I'd like to follow up and ask Thomas that question. How do you get to your volunteer opportunities, such as if you were to go to another state? How do you get to those volunteer opportunities?
Usually, we the different factors we got to get stuff done. We send out to different states.
So you basically make those connections with the people you're volunteering with.
Yes.
So included community is all about making those connections for volunteering and to hopefully get a job someday.
Yes.
Eric, do you have anything that we could maybe wrap up with, since it's, I'm sure, getting close to that time?
Well, I believe the whole thing here is that everyone needs to treat everyone like they are. Like, everyone needs to treat everyone like everyone else. Like, we all have a disability, I'm sure, whether it's learning or a physical disability.
And everybody needs to kind of work together to make your community what it needs to be.
Right.
And I've had some pretty unique volunteer experience.
Eric, make it quick, please. We have to wrap up.
Certainly. Because I have been allowed to, have the opportunity to volunteer assisting other people with disabilities, which is pretty cool.
Good. Thank you for that last thought. This is BJ Stachio.
And this is Eric Christian.
And I would like to thank our guests, Eric Bazance and Thomas Jeremy, for being part of today's show. You gave us a lot of useful information, and hopefully the people watching can take what you've learned and make it work for them as well. Thank you very much for watching Self-Advocacy in Action.
Thank you,
This has been a production of the Self-Advocacy Association of New York State. Thank you for watching.
Fuck.